Today is August 27th, 2023. I am now embarking on a concept called depth. In the past, I just superficially talked about levels, and in karate, there's like different colored belts of understanding the depth of certain subject matter. I think it was like maybe it was like Wednesday or Thursday, or maybe it was Friday. There's this cook who is responsible and reports to the owner, and and the way that he works show that he's a seasoned cook, enough to be considered a chef. And the way that I knew that is because the way that he worked, especially making a crouton. I mean, um, so croutons basically is essentially chopping up bread ends, and the bread middle part is used to make dishes, and whatever is left over is chopped up and then made into croutons. And so there's seasonings that's involved, and there's oil that's involved, and the oil essentially was placed. Essentially, croutons were chopped up, placed into a plastic hotel pan, deep hotel pan, and then oil is placed over to mix it so that the oil will stick to the chopped up bread. That means that when I have the seasonings on the side that I mixed up together, essentially a seasoning salt with herbs de something, right? Herbs de something. I forget what the last word is, but I mean I can look it up. But so essentially, it's that mixture, and when the bread is actually coated with oil, the seasoning will stick to the dry bread because the oil acts as a glue. And when that seasoning is placed into the oven for approximately about 12 minutes, with a full rack of 6 to 7 trays of in a industrial sized oven at 350 degrees. Then I pull it out, and then I shake it so that the breadcrumbs, the bread, the croutons to be, is shifted a little bit to create the exposed area to be different than when it first went in, and placed it back in. Because of the moisture level, it takes another 10 minutes for it to properly cook. Essentially, just taking the moisture out of the breadcrumbs. And when that happens, it becomes a very good crouton because of because of the recipe. So that is and I saw this in action, and I can tell based on the way that it was quickly quickly developed that there is some serious experience behind cooking, not just that, but other types of food in his hands. And so there is an incredible depth to his knowledge, and his the experience shows it. Now, when I was that seems to have a direct correlation in day trading. So now what I'm looking at is, I don't look at now I'm looking at the other possibilities of two situations. One of the situation is when a stock is in a range, or is range bound. What is happening? What is the underlying thing that's happening? Okay. So I'm thinking more now into why there's a couple things that happens. Either the stock goes up, takes a breather, and then moves up. Stock goes up, moves down a little bit, essentially the same as being a breather and then moving back up. Or it'll move up and then it'll be in a range bound, and then it'll reverse. Okay, what those things have in common within that description is it's in a trend, and it is also a range bound area. So I'm thinking about this like there's like a flag pattern, there's a pennant pattern, there's like a double bottom, double top. Those are essentially a range bound situation. So I'm thinking to myself, why would that happen? So why would a stock, for instance, uh, take a breather? Why would it take a breather? Why? So why would the stock take a breather? I'm thinking about these things behind the scenes, trying to figure this out. So when it moves up, and then it takes a breather, choppy, 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 it drips a little bit, and then it comes back up. Why does it do that? I've been thinking about that. Why does it do that? I've been asking that question for a while too. But why does it do that? Why does it take a breather? Why does it need time for it to keep going back up? Why does it do that? Why? What factors causes that to occur? So that means that whatever the catalyst was to cause a certain situation to occur caused the initial, obviously it's people who's trading it, so that means that there must have been buying at that point. And as the buyers are depleted, then the seller comes in and started to sell until at a certain point when there's either the news becomes stronger, or there's more news or bigger catalyst, or there are people who just woke up to the idea of that thought and starts to buy it again. So there seems to be a delay. There seems to be a delay in there seems to be a wave of transactions that occurs. It seems to me there seems to be a wave of the response to the catalyst. It seems to me that seems to be the most reasonable thing that occurs. So there's a breather that occurs within that range, whether it's a pennant or whether it's a flag or whether it's just a choppy range bound situation. And then after that, it just starts picking up, right? That's what happens. When it picks up, that means that whoever have bought, maybe there's some profit taking that's going on. So there must be some sort of profit-taking situation that occurs when that breathing takes place. There's a breathing that occurs. When it moves sideways, there seems to be some sort of taking a breather to whether before it moves into a different range, a range area before it starts a trend. So when it's even the double tops and double bottoms are dropping and then just range bound and then just goes back up. At that point, either it's on the top being a double top or a double bottom, it's behaving, or when it's taking a breather, it's essentially behaving in a very similar manner. But when it reverses, it is as though the impact of the catalyst has been diminished and reality sets in to move in a direction that reflects the value, the quality of the catalyst, which means that if the catalyst is substantially strong, it's going to continue moving in that direction. But if the catalyst has been uh, fully understood to that point within an intraday, then it'll reverse back to return to a level where it's more effective, more effectively representing the value of the stock. So what I have to work on is to identify. I need to identify a particular situation where maybe it's a support and resistance line where there have been a enormous amount of sellers who wants to sell at that point, and so it's clogging up that situation until it can freely free up essentially erase all the sellers when that situation occurs where the trend is being established and it reached the point where there are individuals who have been waiting to sell, and that's the reason why it's taking a breather. And so when that happens, there are individuals who will ride that waveform and bring it down until at a point where the catalyst will punch through that resistance area. Now, when I become intimately familiar with those two areas of of thoughts and how it behaves and the permutations of it works, whether the stock shoots up like this or shoots up like that, moves like this or moves like that or moves like this, it's going to be there are various ways for the stock to move, uh, and those two primary moving mechanisms contribute to the overall impact of how the stock moves. And so, if a stock like this, right? It could be like sometimes on a certain day the impact is so overwhelming because uh, uh, it truly is. Sometimes it just moves. It it essentially just start to run from one side to the other side, but it doesn't shoot up like that, right? It doesn't shoot up, but sometimes it just sits there and just gradually keeps going up. So there are factors, there are substances behind the scenes that provides a um, okay. So I was watching this YouTube video. These two girls were in a tournament. So one little girl had a black and white belt, jiu-jitsu. And the other girl, who was in a black shirt, had a black and white striped jiu-jitsu belt. And this girl who had a black jiu-jitsu suit bent forward, and then shook the hand of the other girl. Then what proceeded to unfold is that when the match started, this little girl created this, grabbed the uniform with one hand, and then with her legs, kicked her, uh, pushed up into the air, and then she maneuvered that hand, grabbed it, and then did an armbar and won. And the other girl started crying, right? So there is a depth. there is a depth of understanding, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's karate, or whether it's cooking, and there is a depth of understanding. Um, there's a depth of understanding how trading is done. So what I realize now is that I need to discover more. I need to discover more about the trending behavior, the angle of attack of the trend, okay, and on the angle of attack of the trend, as well as the range that sits on top of it before it moves up, sits on top of it or moves down. Based on those things, I need to become more and more aware of its behaviors, right? And so one of the things that I've noticed about earnings is that as soon as the earnings comes in, it drops and then picks back up a little bit and then start to drop down if the earnings is bad. But if the earnings is good, what it would do is it'll move back up and then drop down a little bit and then go this way. And then if somehow either the east or west coast or wherever the European markets jumps into to the market, and the catalyst is sufficiently strong, it'll start to pick back up all day maybe. And the fact that the day's overall uh, uh, the day's overall sentiment also plays into how the stock behaves. So it's like it goes and then the rest of the market picks up and it just picks up and just goes like it's like a it's like a domino effect, it moving up or moving down. So these are the areas that I will be discussing now, discovering.